For over 300 years, the children of Israel were in captivity in Egypt. They had suffered untold hardship under different pharaohs. They couldn't understand how a people so blessed, who served the living God, could live a cursed life on earth. How did the people who were once celebrated in Egypt become slaves overnight? For over 60 years, the people of Nigeria have endured failed leadership under all manners of government. They have seen their fortunes decline and their futures mortgaged. They have seen their children become slaves to poverty and their basic freedoms eroded. How did a nation and people so much promise and potential end up captives to their own government? How did a rich nation become so poor? How did Nigerians end up thriving in every other nation but theirs? Then Pharaoh died, and the Israelites celebrated, thinking their agony had come to an end. But the new Pharaoh was worse. Then President Jonathan lost his re-election bid, and the people celebrated because President Buhari had come. But President Buhari was the worst president ever in the history of Nigeria, and the people suffered like they had never suffered before. Then the Israelites cried because of their bondage. Then Nigerians cried because of their suffering. Then God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God had mercy on the Israelites. And God remembered his covenant with his son Yehoshua, and God had mercy on Nigerians. And God sent Moses to deliver the children of Israel from Egypt and lead them to the promised land. And God sent, Herein lies the problem of Nigeria. Nigerians don't know who God has sent to deliver them from their bondage. Many Nigerians believe God has sent Peter Obi to rescue them. And if it's not Peter Obi, then they are still in bondage as far as they are concerned. Some other Nigerians believe that their bondage is normal, and as such, President come, Pharaoh go, all are the same. There are still others who doubt the very existence of God, not to talk of his interest in their nation. There are a few who believe that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the one sent by God to deliver them from APC and Buhari. How can an APC chieftain deliver the people from a wicked APC government? This is the question most Nigerians are asking, and this is the same question the Israelites asked of Moses. How can you, an Egyptian prince born and groomed in the palace, part of the despotic rulership, now claim to be sent by God to save us from your own ruling class? Moses, we don't trust you. You don't look like the type of person we expect that God will send to save us. You don't know our pains and suffering. By your own admission, you are a stammerer. You are not eloquent. You don't have what it takes to get us out of Egypt. Many Nigerians have asked how a weak and obviously ailing Bola Tinubu be the one to save Nigeria. A man who is incoherent, a man of doubtful background and character. How can a man who has been accused of monumental corruption save Nigeria from corruption that's at the heart of most of her problems? Why did God choose Moses? Understanding this will help us understand all that happened between when God sent Moses to deliver the Israelites from Egypt and when they actually left. It will take a Moses who knew the ways of the palace to boldly go there and tell Pharaoh, "Let my people go." It will take a Moses who knew how the Egyptians lived, thought, and acted to know how to maneuver his way around them. It will take a flawed Moses, burdened by the sin and guilt of his birth and existence, to want to make amends and fight for his people. It will take a Moses with a speech defect to understand that his disability was God's ability. It will never be about him. It will always be about God. Man keeps on thinking God only works with perfect people. How can you see God when you see man's perfection? How can you see God's glory when you are consumed by man's glory? How can you see God in a church that has big billboards advertising the pastor and his wife? How can you believe it is God who delivered you when the first person you ask for help in times of trouble is a rich man? Ask the poor nobody and let him feed 5,000 people with 2 small fish and 5 loaves of bread, and then you can shout and say this is a miracle. This is why many didn't recognize or believe Yehoshua was the Messiah, because he was just too ordinary. The Messiah was supposed to be a warrior king who would defeat the enemies of the Jews in battle. Who was this ordinary man without a spear or sword? The people wanted Saul as their king because of his looks. Samuel saw Eliab, the son of Jesse, who was tall and handsome, and wanted to anoint him as king. But God said, I don't judge my king by your standards. People look at the outward appearance, but God looks at the heart. Stop judging your friends by their character. Stop bringing your spouse before the jury of your friends and family. Stop criticizing what you have no power to create. This is how the Israelites ended up judging and criticizing Yehoshua, who came to save them. This is how they judged and criticized Moses, who was sent to deliver them. God sent the plagues not just for the Egyptians, but for the Jews to see that he is mighty in battle on behalf of he who he has anointed. He wanted them to know Moses was his man. He wanted them to see his perfection in the imperfection of Moses. And now, here they were on the eve of their departure from Egypt. The same Moses who they doubted had been used by God to get them to this point. Many Nigerians will never know the battles that have been fought in the background. They will never know the blackmails and character assassination. They will never know the many acts of high treason committed by government officials just to truncate the elections. They will never understand how a few people devised a currency change to frustrate Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, but ended up destroying our economy further and plunging millions into poverty. In all this, God has had his say and his way. The reign of Pharaoh President Buhari comes to an end tomorrow, the 29th of May 2023. And even if God chose to use the most imperfect person to give Nigerians victory over this most wicked government, I thank God that we survived to see this day. Yehoshua didn't come with a spear or a sword, but he came with a weapon that neutralizes the spear and the sword. That weapon is love. Let us now cloak our hearts with love as we prepare to depart from Egypt. My prayer today is that God will use Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, a prince of Egypt, born in the house of Pharaoh, an APC chieftain well versed in the affairs of the failed APC government, a politician symbolic of all that is wrong with Nigeria, to lead Nigerians out of Egypt onto the path of greatness. My hope and trust is in God, because the covenant we have is better than the covenant the Israelites had in Egypt. God bless you all. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. God bless our world.